Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, Finding Your Flow. I'm so excited to have you here. So, I want to welcome you to our new season of this transformational podcast, and it's called My Intuition Made Me Do It. I'm your host, Jennifer Jane Young, and I'm here to ignite inspiration within you. I'm the author of Say Yes to Your Yes, How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap, and the visionary behind the School of Intuitive Leadership. I've dedicated my life to empowering individuals to trust their intuition and lead their lives from that powerful inner wisdom. Through my work as an international speaker and intuitive leadership advisor, I've witnessed the transformative power of following one's intuition firsthand with entrepreneurs and organizations around the world. This season, we're diving deep into the stories of people who dare to listen to their inner voice and take the leap. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of intuition, sharing captivating experiences that will reignite your belief in the incredible guidance within you. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's time to embrace the clarity and courage that comes from trusting your intuition. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired into action. Your dreams are waiting. Let's make them a reality together. All right, so Becky, I'm so happy to have you back on the podcast because we had a little technical glitch and we lost your recording. It was not a good moment, but I also feel like these kinds of things happen for a reason. So maybe there's something new that needs to come out in our interview today. So we're going to round two and get started. So I'll start with the burning question, which is, what did your intuition make you do that you would love to share with us today?
Well, my intuition made me go all in on Substack and leave traditional email marketing behind. After my intuition also made me go all in on my feminist messaging and really leaning into and owning my voice in that area.
I'm curious how that felt when you did that, because one of the things I know as entrepreneurs that we're often encouraged to do is get super specific and niched. And it is a huge fear for a lot of us because it feels like when we do that, we're like leaving all kinds of other business and potential and opportunities on the table. How did that feel for you to be like, this is the one thing and the one place that I'm going to be doing things now?
Yeah, I avoided it for a long time. I also just want to quickly say, I believe our first recording, I probably sounded like a genius. So if I don't this time, just know that somewhere in the ether exists this place where I sounded amazing. I just want to leave that open in case this doesn't go so well. Niching down or just narrowing your focus is always scary because, at least for a lot of us, we have this like fear of missing out stuff and thinking like, if I'm too narrow, if I'm too specific, I'm going to alienate certain people and limit my pool of buyers. And a smaller pool of buyers just necessarily seems like scarier because that's fewer people to spend money with you. But I'm not Amazon and I never will be, and nor do I want to be, right? I'm not going to be that mass market appeals to everyone kind of place or appeals to most kind of place. But for a long time, I was trying to do that. I was trying to say, like, how can I appeal to the most people possible? But when you try to be something for everyone, what I discovered is you become nothing to no one because you don't stand out. No one notices you. They don't understand who you are, what you're doing. And so then you really lose yourself. So it was really scary and hard to do that because I was really afraid of alienating people. And then I was sort of like at a place of, it's not working like it is. So what's the harm? And it'll feel better. And that's the biggest thing for me is just being able to feel really good about my work because it is really truly speaking to who I am and how I want to show up in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a bold stance that you took. Feminism is a very bold stance, you know, and I think I'm just hearing like bravery to do that and also just super inspiring because I know that even for myself, I really struggle to take a stance on the thing that I want to be supporting, backing up, you know. By the way, you still sound like a genius. And, you know, for me, it's like the most important part in any podcast or interview is just people really speaking from the heart. And I know that you are a very you're someone that has high integrity. So I don't know what it was like before either, but it's great today too. And it's also December, so we're all a little bit tired. Yeah.
That's true. Yes. This is the time of year to be tired. People sometimes will use the word brave or courageous or whatever with me, and I appreciate it, but it's funny how it doesn't feel that way to me. I mean, something can feel scary, but it doesn't necessarily feel brave because it feels so natural. And I
Yeah.
think maybe that's the thing is like it just once I finally allow myself to, it honestly feels less brave to show up the way I show up now in full integrity and authenticity than when I was doing more masking and trying to show up in a way that I thought more people would like because I wasn't really being myself. That took a lot of work and it felt scary and it like I had to like muster up the courage to show up and sort of put on airs and removing all of that and just saying, no, I'm just going to be who I am, show up how I am. I know that seems maybe more brave, but it feels less so in a way because it just is like, yeah, I'm just showing up as I am every day now. But I know that not everyone's willing to talk about big topics and take a stance on things. So I do get it, but I don't know. For me, it's funny because it just doesn't feel that way.
There's so much that I want to share about what you just said. First of all, I've never actually heard somebody verbalize this before, and you're so right. I can relate to this often, people telling me that like they watch my journey and all the things I've done over the last 15 years, and they say the same, like you're so courageous, you're so brave to have done all these things. But the same for me, it was just like, I don't know, it was just such a natural thing to do and say yes to and jump into. But it brings me to this idea that I talk about often is like we don't see our brilliance, we don't see our inner genius because it's the water we swim in. So for you, this is just so natural for me. And I think that we underestimate how powerful something can be, or how powerful it is what we're doing, just because for us it seems kind of so easy. Um, but the impact it's having on other people and around the world is so much bigger than we can actually see because we can't feel it, like you said.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I tell clients all the time too, like I think especially women often we think it has to be hard. Like it doesn't count if it's not hard. It's not, it's not valuable enough if it's not a struggle and a challenge. And
Yeah.
I love telling people too, the thing that comes the most natural to you and that feels really easy is probably the thing you need to charge the most for. And yet often we charge the least for it because it feels like I can't charge that much for something that takes me so little time or that comes so easily for me. And it's like, no, that's it. That's your genius. And that is the thing you should be charging more for. But I get that because it's very hard. Often we think like, well, if it's not a struggle, if it's not really hard, if it's not like blood, sweat, and tears, then it's not, then it doesn't count, or I'm not allowed to charge more for that, or whatever the thing is. So it is hard sometimes to take that ownership over the things that make us really brilliant just in who we are.
Yeah. Oh my God. So good. And I'm curious, so before you made the switch, really, like what did that intuitive nudge feel like? That like what did it feel like, that information or that push to make this change? How did that information come to you? How did it feel? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it's been gradual over time where it's like this little whisper that's always there of like, you want to talk about these things and it's okay. And like, you can give more here. And like, I think over time, I have gradually done more of it. It's not like it was like a overnight, like there's no choir singing to me and
Right.
like, da, 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 and now today everything shall change because it was really more slow than that, where it was like over time, I just started to feel a little more, I would say freedom, but I don't know that that's it because it wasn't that it was like not more freedom to do it, but more like urgency or like it needed to happen, like this pull. It was more like I can't deny this anymore. I have to talk about this thing, right? Where I'd been sitting there festering of like, I want to talk about this issue. I want to talk about whatever the issues were. And it's like, oh, but that might turn some people off or whatever. And slowly but surely just like allowing myself to have one more little conversation here, or one more blog post there, or, one more post on social media about XYZ, whatever those things are, George Floyd. And the big turning point, I would say, the thing that maybe the most made me feel like the floodgates are finally fully open was the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. And that I had already written before about abortion and my feelings around, that being an important healthcare choice. I'd written before, I think, about LGBTQ issues. I think I had come out as bisexual to my audience and things. Like, I've had these like little pieces, but after Roe being overturned, it was like, I think I felt like everything, the gloves totally came off, where I was just like, okay, there's no more hiding behind anything. Because I felt this feeling of, what if I had done a little more? Could I have made a bigger difference, right? If I had not been sort of sitting on the fence here, or trying to like still appease the people who may not agree with me, could that have made a difference? And so that moment on, I was like, and that was really where Feminist Founders started, was like, okay, I want to be the kind of person who says, I know there are other people just like me who care about these issues, not just Roe, but, not just abortion care, but trans health and, Black rights and, Black Lives Matter and all of these different issues. Like, I knew there were other people like me who care about those things and running businesses, and sort of feeling like that push pull of like, can those two things exist together, or must I keep them separate to be successful? And I wanted to be able to speak to that. And because I was like, I'm tired of feeling this, like, alone in this, and like, is it possible? And I just want to start to create a community for us to get together to say, like, no, we're allowed to run our business and be vocally outspoken about the fact that we think that Roe v. Wade should be law of the land. Like, that's okay. You're allowed to have both of those things exist. And so that moment was really what finally did it. And it felt like, where there's something that you can no longer deny, right? Like, you've been kind of seeing it and then trying to pretend like you didn't, but then you've like, when you finally are like, no, I've fully seen, I can't hide from it anymore. I know it's there, and there's just no more hiding from it.
Yeah. I think that is so true for like our truth. It's like there's just a certain amount of time that we can shove it down, and at some point it's going to be like a volcano. It's gonna need to, it will erupt. That has been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I'm like, good for you for letting it erupt and following that path. And so on the other side of that coin, like, who do you think you would be today, or what would your life look like if you had not made that change? If you would have continued wearing that mask and just doing what you thought was going to make you successful versus what felt true to you inside?
It's so hard to even picture, like, to even go there, because I just don't know that it was possible. If I had never, I mean, it would just be a matter of not being who I am. So like, it just doesn't even feel possible
Yeah.
at all. And I would probably be the same as I was, having middling success and feeling, meh about my work, and, not terribly inspired, fairly lonely in my work. Because that's kind of where I was. Because again, when you try to be everything for everybody, you end up being nothing for nobody, and that's kind of where I was. I felt fairly lonely. The communities the spaces that I would find myself in never felt right. Um, at the time, I don't know if I could fully explain why. I know now it's because I was just in women's spaces, but woman doesn't equal feminist in any stretch of the imagination. Like, there are some very non-feminist women's spaces, a lot of them. And so I was just in the wrong kinds of rooms, feeling really alone, and not terribly in love with my work. And so still just trying to figure out how do I make this work for me and still make money, and sort of a desperate, lonely kind of stage. So I'd probably still be there, but it just feels so impossible, because I just don't, I couldn't, the weight of the mask was too heavy. There was no way it was going to stay.
Yeah, you have shifted on a cellular level. And I think it's often like that, eh? When we look back at who we were before, after we've done so much growth and healing and like evolved in so many deep ways, it's like we look at that person behind us in the past and we're like, oh my God, who is she? Like, I don't even recognize her anymore. So
Yeah, that's really beautiful. What would you say was the biggest hurdle in trusting your gut and making these changes? If there were any, maybe there wasn't.
Well, at the time, so I'll go back to the Dobbs decision because that was a time when I was fully like, all right, no more trying to kind of play both sides or make some people feel better or whatever. I had a client who, because I posted a story about my own abortion care and made it very clear where I stood on things and gave a portion of my money at that time to, I think it was, no, the National Abortion Funds, and was giving money there. And I had a client who was like, I don't want my money to go to that. We had previous discussions. She knew I was very much pro-choice. I knew she was very much anti-choice. But we had, me again kind of like, well, how can we find common ground or whatever? And she was like, I don't want my money going into those things. And I don't feel like I belong in your communities now. And I had to be able to say, you're right. You don't belong in my communities now. And here's your money back. And I'm sorry that that's the way it is, but that's how it is now, right? Like I can't. So, I mean, I lost a client. I had a few people write emails back to me in response to some of those things that were not kind. Certainly on social media, I have dealt with loads of backlash and trolls and mean, hateful, angry comments. So there's a cost to going all in on these things. There were hurdles. There was the challenge, the internal thing of, is this worth it? Did I make a huge mistake? Can I survive this or whatever? And because of that, like my work also changed a lot in that time. I went from just sort of one-on-one basic coaching to like really wanting to call in a specific kind of business owner. Again, those same sorts of people like me who care deeply about equity and social justice. I only want to work with those kinds of people. I'm okay now alienating the people who are not those people. But in that tricky interim, when we make a shift in our business, it can be really hard because you're at a time when you're most potentially questioning yourself anyway. Like, is this change a good change? And then you start to get a lot of data points that maybe it wasn't, because there is inevitably in transition a loss of clients, a loss of followers on social media, your email list shrinks, whatever. The people who are seeing themselves out because they don't align with your new mission, that's natural and it has to happen. But it's really hard because you're already questioning yourself. And then you start to see like numbers and data that says, oh, this might not have been good. And it can be hard to hold on and keep the faith to say, no, if I stay with this, if I keep showing up, I'm going to start to replace those people with the right people. The right people are going to find their way to me, and this will work. But that can be a really challenging time. And it was, I had not just the data, but also comments and things that were like, oof, am I ready for this? But I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did, because now my communities look like the most wonderful spaces to be in, the people I'm surrounding myself, the clients that I have. I get to do work that feels really deeply meaningful with people who care about stuff that I care about. And that matters so much to me. It's so much more rewarding.
Let's just take a quick pause to soak in the goodness of today's story. If you are feeling like your inspiration, your intuition, and your excitement is being ignited right now for your next yes, I invite you to join us in the Say Yes to Your Next Yes community. It is a free space, and it is a supportive community for ambitious, purpose-driven souls who are ready to trust their intuition, take courageous action, and say yes to the life they know they're meant to live. This space is led by me, Jennifer Jane Young. I'm an intuitive leadership coach and the author of Say Yes to Your Yes: How to Trust Your Gut and Take the Leap. In this group, you're going to gain direct access to my guidance and coaching support, empowering you to break free from fear, align deeply with your purpose, and confidently take bold steps towards your next big yes in life or in business. Let's turn those intentions into empowered action so you can experience the life you have been dreaming of. Head over to jenniferjaneyoung.com/community to join us today. Now let's get back to the rest of this amazing story.
I mean, it just sounds like you've grown a beautifully aligned family around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like. And so tell us a little bit about the work that you do with women now. I don't know if it's just women, like Who do you work with now? What is it, the work that you do now? I would love for you to tell us a little bit.
Well, on a personal level, so like my individual work, I'm a business coach and I coach clients who own businesses. Generally, they're at like 750 to $1 million in revenue, somewhere in there usually. They're at this tipping point where they have to go from the main provider of services in their business to saying, do I want to grow this beyond me? They usually have a team of people. They've got a bookkeeper. They've got, they have a VA. They've got some help around them, but they're still doing the bulk of service delivery. And it's this place of like, I can't do that anymore. There's no more capacity here for me to deliver services. So if I want to continue growing beyond this million and beyond mark, I have to actually really rethink what business looks like, right? I have to start learning how to be a leader and not just a service executioner and like manager. I have to learn how to be a leader. I have to step into sales. I have to step into managing teams. And do I want to do that? So my work is with helping people understand, do I want to do that? And a big part of that, though, too, is helping them understand that they can do it in a way that doesn't have to reflect what they've always seen in corporate America. Because that's what so many of the people I work with who are feminists, who are typically women or folks who identify as women, not always, but typically. And they are people who've been really harmed by corporate America and don't want to replicate that toxic capitalism in their business, but don't necessarily know another path forward. So often when they're at that like tricky point of do I grow or not grow, some of that's being informed by their fears of can I grow in a way that doesn't have to be toxic. And so my work with them is in helping them navigate that and understand, yeah, you can grow in a non-toxic way. So that's personally. And then I also I head up Feminist Founders, which is a newsletter and podcast and community of people who are those people who run businesses and care a lot about equity and social justice. We provide news and tips and things like that for those folks in our weekly newsletter. I say we because another intuition thing is that I just brought on a partner and I'm very excited about that. So in the Feminist Founders part of my business, not my personal coaching, the Feminist Founders stuff, I'm bringing on a partner, Faith Clark, for 2025. And I'm very excited about that. And that was very much my intuition saying yes.
I know her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes, I know Faith. I'm pretty sure I know her. I'm gonna go check out your Feminist Founders after. If it's the same
Jamaican
Faith.
accent?
A what? Yeah, I think that's the same Faith Clark.
Probably. She's in New York. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was her asking me, her trusting her intuition to say,
Wow.
the sort of like, this is a big crazy ask, but would you ever consider like working on this thing together? And me immediately feeling in my body this like of like, yes, that would feel so amazing. And it was like, there was no question. It was just, yes, let's do it. What are we doing? And so starting next year, she'll be on board helping with everything and creating more community spaces. We're gonna be doing more behind the scenes storytelling of what it looks like to do something in partnership. I'm just very excited about that. So that is the other half of my business, is the Feminist Founders piece.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that you dropped in this other little story about what your intuition led you to do and what her intuition led her to do. Because oftentimes when we allow ourselves to just be guided, we're given exactly what we need when we didn't even realize maybe we needed it. Like that moment where you just felt the exhale from her request.
Yeah, well, I have been saying, so I feel like it's like this intuition is informed by a lot of intentionality, right? Because for this last year, 2024, my word of the year was collaboration. And I have just been so focused on how can I not do business alone? Like, I don't ever want to work for someone else again. And I don't necessarily want to take on like an official business partner necessarily, although we kind of are doing that, but a little more loosely. But I don't like working alone. Like, I'm a solopreneur who doesn't want to be alone. And so it's like, what are all the ways I can work with more people? And this relationship that I have with her was built out of her. She was a guest on my podcast. We've slowly gotten to know each other over this last year. We ended up doing sort of a mastermind together, and like we've just been building this and deepening this relationship. And I think that she's witness to my desire to be more collaborative, and she has felt that. And so it was like an answer to a question, or an answer to something I wanted. It's not like I didn't know I wanted it. I wanted it. I didn't know how to solve it.
Right.
And so for her to step in and trust that that this feels right to her and to ask, I mean, forever will I be like, wow, that's a big thing to ask somebody. And that she did, it was huge. And then for me to be able to say, yeah, this was exactly the solution I was looking for. I just wasn't sure how to make it happen. And now it's happening. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I love that you talked about intentionality. And I always say like we can't do any of this alone. It's all a collaboration, right? It's a collaboration with us, universe, the humans in the universe. And so when we plant a seed of intention, it starts to grow, and we start to magnetize people towards us that are going to come fulfill those intentional desires or whatever we need. So, oh, I love that. That's so exciting. I'm going to reach out to Faith after.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Faith.
we're both really excited.
Yeah.
And the newsletter for Feminist Founders is, and the community, all of it is hosted on Substack, which was the other big change that I made in my business just briefly, which was like, I just had this feeling that I was tired. I knew in my body, I could feel I did not want to do email marketing anymore. Every time I would go into ConvertKit, now called Kit, to type an email, I could feel myself being like, you don't buy from me, you jerks. Like, I was getting angry and I'm like, this is not healthy. Like, I don't want to resent people who've opted into my email list just because they're not able to afford my, very expensive coaching package. But I was just resentful, I think, because I was paying every month to like send emails to people who weren't necessarily going to buy anything from me. And I could have just gotten rid of them or gotten rid of the list. But I'm like, I also want to be in connection with people, but I don't want to do it in a way this way. It didn't feel good. And Substack allowed me to say, I will send emails at the level I feel comfortable for free. And for those who are willing and able to say, I want a little more, or I value what you're doing, then I'm willing to give a little more, right? So Substack has this really nice ecosystem and everything's built out where it created boundaries that I probably could have established, but that are just built into it of like, you get this much for free, you pay if you want more. Everyone knows the deal going into it. So the expectations are there. I don't have to feel weird about asking. And that way, it's not a ton of money, but I used to pay every month and now I'm getting paid to send content. And that feels fully different and really good. And I'm glad that even though people were telling me, oh no, you can't get rid of email marketing, that's a bad decision. I could feel my body saying, no, this has to change. And I am thrilled that I made that change too.
I often hear your voice, Becky, because I still have both. First of all, Substack, for anyone who doesn't know what Substack is, go see it. As a user, it's amazing. It's like curating your own magazine.
Yeah.
It's gentle, it's kind, it's such a beautiful space. And I still have both. And I'm still like confused about like when to use which one, and I've had that thought like you. I haven't been able to do it yet because I don't know, there's something internal that's not quite clicking yet, but I often think about you, and when I think about, let's say, just moving everything into Substack, I feel this sense of peace and ease from the simplicity of it. So you're re-inspiring me again with this thought.
Well, and it's also scary. And I'm sure there are things like, the FOMO is probably real. I probably am missing out on certain ways that I could be using email to my advantage. But ultimately, I just have to do what feels right for me, even if that comes at some sort of price. Like, it's worth it to me. It is so worth it to me right now to be like, actually have a bigger email list than I did, and I'm doing less to try to promote it. And it's paying me, not a ton, but it pays me instead of me paying. And it feels really good. It just feels so much better for me. But, ultimately, we also do what feels right for us. And that might not be the right decision for certain people. But for me and my business and where I'm at, it has been such a good decision.
Yeah. The paid subscribers that I've had on Substack, it was so beautiful because two of them reached out and told me that essentially they became paid subscribers really just to support.
Yep, that's how the bulk of mine are. Not all, but the
Yeah.
bulk.
Like not even expecting really no expectations. They're just like, I love what you do. I want to support you. And that energy is something we need more of now, I think, especially in the business world. Things have gotten a little out of hand with how marketing is done and all of that stuff. So there's a level of kindness in Substack that I really love.
Yeah, I think that it gives me that internal permission to say, if you're not even willing to buy me a cup of coffee, the equivalent of a cup of coffee once a month, I don't have to give as much to you. And that's not bad. It's just that's okay, right? Like, there's just that permission that comes with it. That's really nice. So I'm a huge fan.
I love it. I love it. So to tie up, I have one final question for anyone who's listening to your story today and is like, I'm going to get specific here, like who is really inspired of showing up with more integrity in their life or in their business, but they're feeling scared and they're feeling stuck. And if they could get one piece of wisdom from Becky today, what would that be?
I think community is so important. It feels a little bit like chicken and the egg, but I think if I reflect on it, it wasn't chicken or the egg. The community came first. Like me seeking out people who shared my value set and who were showing up in ways that I wanted to show up, or who were supportive of me showing up in those ways, like those people who were like not afraid to speak their opinions on things, who were already out there sharing. Being in community with people is so important because it can feel lonely. If you're doing something that's going to represent a big shift in your business, a shift in how you show up, that can be, like I said, really scary, because that transition period is scary. And it's really helpful to have community who get it, who care, who believe in what you're doing, who can be there to cheer you on when things are tough and remind you of why you did it, why it's important, that it's going to get better, that it's going to be okay. So I think calling in your community first so that you have that support system in place is really, really, really valuable.
I second that. Oh my God. It is the best way to do it. Don't do it alone. None of this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do any of this alone. So, what beautiful piece of advice. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Becky, I am so excited to release this episode finally.
Okay, save the recording.
I mean, I hit record, so if it doesn't save, like we got gremlins working in the background.
Right. Maybe it's not meant to be. At that point, we'll just trust our intuition that this was not meant to go out into the universe.
Yeah, I know, right? Totally. Well, thank you for being here for a second
Yeah.
time. Really appreciate it, and excited to release this out into the world.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, let's just take a moment to take in that story. My wish is that it inspires you into the aligned action that you are really ready for. You also don't have to do this alone. Just like my guests have shared about all the incredible people that have supported them along their journey, we are here for you too. If you're ready to up-level your personal leadership, take big leaps in your life, or take that next leap on your entrepreneurial journey, join us at the School of Intuitive Leadership so that you can experience more ease, flow, joy, abundance, and live in your full brilliance and wake up each day to the life that you really want. Find out more at jenniferjaneyoung.com or at theschoolofintuitiveleadership.com. And participate in this movement with us by sharing an episode that deeply inspired you and leaving us a review. I can't wait to see you on the next episode.